What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. I'm Jeff. This is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and every once in a while throw in other whiskey-related content. Today, we're going to be covering the OSWAs, so we're going to be looking back on some of the winners and the nominees, and I'll be ranking them according to my own personal preference, so this should be a fun one. Stick around. Okay, so we're doing a reaction video today. We're going to be looking at the OSWAs, or the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, which is a democratic annual awards ceremony by the whiskey community for the whiskey community. And what I'll be doing here, I'll be going over the winners, looking at the nominees, and telling you how I would have ranked the nominees. Now, obviously, this video is not to discredit the OSWAs or anything. The community voted, and hearty congratulations to all the winners. But what was democratically voted by the whiskey community might not line up with what you'd have chosen or what I would have chosen, so I'm just going to rank them according to my own personal taste. And I really shouldn't have to say this, but I do think it goes without saying that I'm right and everybody else is wrong. Anyway, as usual, I've got a mystery pour in my glass here. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video and I'll let you know what that is. Also, I've started giving you guys hints as to what's in the glass, and this week's hint is this was its first time being nominated this year, but it's also its first year being released on the market. So that's pretty impressive. That's your little hint. So good luck with that. In terms of categories, they are not listed in the same order as they are in the OSWAs. In the OSWAs, you have best value whiskey first. That's the biggest category. I pushed that one to the end of the video because, much like the mystery pour, that's a psychological trick to keep people watching longer. So unless you skip ahead to the end of the video, my little tricks worked and gotcha. And if you did skip ahead to the end, you win this round. But I'll tell you what, I'll get you next time. I've got a lot more tricks up my sleeve. In fact, I've got a whole book about it. Anyway, that's all of our bases covered, so let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into our list ranking. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, so we'll start things off with the best blended category, and I'm going to put the nominees up here. Right away, I want to scratch out the Doers. It's the only one on this list I haven't had, so let's get rid of that one. The winner this year was the Thompson Brothers ABC LMNOP, and that is a good one. However, if it was up to me, again, we're discounting the Doers, so we'll start at number 5. At number 5, at the back of the list, I would have Johnnie Walker Black, which admittedly is pretty decent stuff. Number 4, I would have the Cutty Sark Prohibition. Good ABV on that one. Really solid value blend there. And at number 3, I would put McLean's Nose. At number 2, I'm going to put the Chivas 18, which is actually really not a bad 18-year-old. I do think it's really solid, especially when you factor in the price. Yeah, it's 40%, but it's also much cheaper than most other 18-year-olds, and we do get that age. We do get some sophistication there. Number 1, I'm going to go with the crowd on this one. I agree. I'm going to put the Thompson Brothers at the top. What a beautiful, funky sherry bomb, craft presented, not too expensive. Really good choice. All right, so for the next category, we've got Best Blended Malt. I'll put the nominees up here. We're going to scratch out the Compass Box No Name because I haven't tried it. I have tried the rest. This year's winner was Campbelltown Lock, which is a Springbank release. Do I agree with that one? No. So at the bottom of the list, we've got Big Pete, which is a Douglas Lang release. It's a pretty straightforward Isla whiskey. It is craft presented. It's well priced. It's decent stuff, but if I'm being honest, it's never really been a standout for me. Next up at number 4, we've got the other Douglas Lang in here, which is the Galdrins. This is their Campbelltown release. Again, never really blew me away, but definitely good stuff. At number 3, this is where I would have put Campbelltown Lock, which is a really, really good blend. I am impressed by it, but it's a tough category. Coming in at number 2, this is where I would put SRV5, which is an 8-year-old Thompson Brothers release, blended malt. Really, really good stuff. And at number 1, my winner for this year would be the same as last year's winner, which is the Compass Box Orchard House. As far as I'm concerned, when you look at it from a value perspective and just a deliciousness perspective, this is really one of the best blended malts on the scene today, in my not particularly humble opinion. Our next category is going to be Best Non-Malt Whiskey, so let's take a look at our nominees, and then let's scratch out all the ones that I haven't tried before. Well. Alright, so that leaves us with 2 Wild Turkeys here, so skip, I guess. The winner here was the Wild Turkey Rare Breed, and if you really need an opinion, yeah, I do think the Rare Breed is better than the 101, but also, whatever. Respectfully. So our next category is Best Distillery. So this is an interesting one. Let's take a look at our nominees. The winner this year was Springbank, and there's this big debate raging about whether Springbank should even have been nominated at all if it belongs on this list because it's so hard to get. My answer to that is, I guess so. Probably something about democratic voting. Anyway, they're here. They would be my winner too. I'm going to say they're the best distillery on this list, but I also don't want them on this list. So personally, I'm going to scratch them out, and now we're left with 5. Starting off at number 5, I've got Loch Lomond here, which is a brand I do like, but not nearly as much as a lot of you out there. For me, it's a mid-range brand. It's a classic mixed bag distillery. We got some good, we got some bad. Also, who can keep up with all their different releases? There's about 97,864 different iterations of Loch Lomond, and I'm lost. I mean, to be fair, having a lot of different releases is not a bad thing, but yeah, still, number 5 for me. At number 4, I've got Glen Scotia. I do like Glen Scotia, but I can't match the enthusiasm a lot of people out there have for it, although it's a good one. It's a good one. Number 3 is Benromic. This is where I start to get excited. Benromic has some killer whiskeys, great prices, really solid brand. At number 2, we've got Ardnamurchan, which is the brand everyone's talking about these days, but I do think the hype is justified, and it's incredible whiskey. Coming in at number 1, I think predictably, I've got Bruichladdich, which I've long said is one of my favorite distilleries ever. Incredible whiskeys out of there. You've got the Bruichladdich line, Port Charlotte, Octomore. Yes, please. So this next one is a tricky category. This is Best New Distillery, and if I'm being honest, I'm going off of very limited information for this one. I'll put up our nominees here. The winner this year was Ardnamurchan, which was a surprise to precisely no one. But yeah, the reason this is tough is because I've had like a million Ardnamurchans, but beyond that, I've only had a handful of Bimbers, 2 Rassays, 2 Lags, 2 Kingsbarns, 1 Lindoris. A lot of these were not even bottles that I owned. They were samples, or I just tried them when I was out and about. So none of that lends itself to me making a particularly informed decision. And yeah, just given the disparity of sample sizes, if I'm being responsible, I would just skip this category. But I'm not. So I won't. Here's how I'd rank them. But disclaimer, you should absolutely take this with a grain of salt. At number 6, I've got Lindoris. I've only had one before, and it was decent. I'm hoping they impress a little bit more down the line. At number 5, I've got Rassay, which I know a lot of people out there are really pumped about. I did enjoy my bottle, but I also felt like it was a little bit young and not quite there yet. But I think down the line, we'll be getting some really incredible stuff from them. Number 4 is Lag, which is good. It's damn good. Like, what a young, feisty, vibrant, smoky, rugged whiskey. Yes, their whiskey is still quite young, but it's already so interesting. This is a brand I will be watching closely. At number 3, I've got Bimber. Bimber is expensive, it's hard to get, and it can occasionally disappoint, but when they're great, they're great. And I say a similar thing about Bimber as I do about Ardnamurchan, in the sense that this is not great for young whiskey. This is just great whiskey. At number 2, we've got Kingsbarns, which I do feel is kind of like overlooked and underloved a little bit. Dream to Dram, for example, is an absolutely killer whiskey. I can't wait to try some of their more recent offerings, which have yet to make it into my market, but I'll be buying them up the moment I see them. Kingsbarns might be a bit of a niche flavor, but there's a purity and a clarity to the barley in their distillate that I think is just magic. At number 1, naturally, I've also got Ardnamurchan. They won the award. Again, surprised absolutely no one. So basically, this entire segment was just my way of saying, I agree. Our next award is Best Independent Bottler. I'll put the nominees up here. Signatory won this award. This is a category I'm going to skip, and I'm going to skip it because I focus so much on OBs these days, or original bottlings. I don't buy a lot of IBs or independent bottlings. I do buy the whiskeys that I want, but I also make sure they're whiskeys with broad appeal. And I do that because I want not just to be watched, but to be loved by as many people as possible, which I do think is a double-edged sword. On one hand, we definitely have some very unhealthy self-serving narcissism there, which, you know, that's a problem. Please love me. But also the channel is doing really well, generally speaking, and I think drinking whiskeys and talking about whiskeys with a broad appeal is definitely a factor there. All of this is to say that I've had all of these brands before, most of them many, many times, probably only a couple North Stars. But generally speaking, yeah, I've had all of these, and I've had a lot of them even this year. But I'm not in the IB loop, which I have an excuse for. but you don't. Any whiskey lover can and should explore the world of IBs. Some of the best, hands down the best single malts in the world do come from the IB scene. Sadly, it's not a scene that I'm particularly in the loop with these days. So I'm still gonna skip. Next up, we've got Best World Whiskey. I'll put the nominees up here. The winner this year was Wild Turkey, so I guess they really cleaned up at the OSWAs this year. The only one I've not tried from this lot is the Blue Spot, so we'll scratch that one off. My picks would be as follows. Starting at number 5, I'd have the Indri, which was decent enough, but I'll admit it didn't blow me away. Number 4, I'd have Rare Breed. I'm just not that into bourbon, although sure, this is a good one. Number 3, I'd have Powers, which really surprised me. I tried it for the first time this year, the 12-year-old John's Lane, and it's really good stuff. Coming in at number 2, I've got Yoichi, which is really, really good. If you haven't tried it, check it out. Number 1 for me is the Kavalan Vino. Now, I'm biased because that's a Taiwanese whiskey. I live here in Taiwan, but I'm also biased because you definitely have to pay more than I do for this. This costs about 110 US here, and it's very much worth that. So from my perspective, it's a great value buy, but from yours, fine, it's not the best value buy on the list, but I do think it's the best whiskey on the list. Our next category is Best Scotch Whisky. This is a broad category. If you're a Scotch whiskey, you're a contender. Our winner here was Springbank 10, and I like this category because there's no slouches here. Pretty much everything here is an absolute stunner, but still, we're gonna rank them. At the bottom of the list, at number 6, I've got the Glen Scotia Victoriana, which is a good whiskey, but I don't like it as much as a lot of you out there do. At number 5, an incredible whiskey, Port Charlotte 10. It pains me to put it at number 5 because it's really, really good, but that's where it lands on this list. Still one you got to check out. Number 4, I've got the Benromach Cask Strength. I love the Benromach house style. Obviously, it's cask strength. Good bang for buck here. Great whiskey. At number 3, I've got Springbank 10, which is, of course, an incredible whiskey if you can actually find it and it's not overpriced. At number 2, I've got the Bunnahabhain 12 Cask Strength. Another great whiskey. I'm basing this off of the 2022 release. I have not tried the 2023, but I will the moment I come across it. And number 1, Ledaig 18. The moment I looked at the list of nominees, I like all the whiskeys here, I really do, but Ledaig 18 for me is the easy standout. I think it's a gorgeous whiskey and pretty well priced for an 18-year-old. It's quite widely available. Definitely one you've got to try if you haven't. Last up, we've got the Best Value Whiskey. I'll put our nominees up here. This is the big category for a lot of people. We don't want to overspend, but we do want good quality whiskey. Some really incredible picks this year. Arran 10 won for the 3rd time in 3 years. I know not everyone was happy about that, but it is a great whiskey. As far as my rankings would go, at the bottom at number 6, I'd put Ledaig 10, and I know that hurts. I love this stuff too, but that's where it lands for me on this list. At number 5, I would have Arran 10. I still love this stuff. I know a lot of people think it's overhyped. I don't. I think it deserves a place in the nominees, and I think the winning it makes sense. It's got that perfect trifecta of price, quality, and character. At number 4, I've got the Port Charlotte 10, which is just a classic Isla belter. It definitely deserves its spot here. Number 3, it starts getting a little bit tough here, but for number 3, I'm going to land on the Ardnamurchan Ardnamurchan AD, which is just incredible. For number 2, I'm putting the classic Laddie here. This was my whiskey of the year last year in 2022. You guys know how much I love this stuff. And even though it did make the nominations this year, I still feel like it's an underrated whiskey. Incredible value for money. Which leaves our last spot, our number 1 spot, to Kilkerran 12. I absolutely love Kilkerran 12. For me, it's every bit as good as Springbank. In some ways, it's even better still. I think it's a gorgeous whiskey, and if you can get your hands on it, I know it's not available everywhere. Certainly don't overpay. Pay the recommended retail price for it, but if you can find it and you've not tried it yet, check it out. It's incredible. All right, so that's it, guys. That's how I would rank all the OSWA nominees this year. Keep in mind, it's all my opinion, and I do want to hear yours. So where would you land on a lot of these categories? How would you rank a lot of the nominees? Or you could tell me what winners you would pick for each of the categories, or whatever categories stand out to you. All right, so finally, it's time to take a look at our mystery pour here. If you guys remember the hint I gave out earlier, the hint was this is its first year being nominated, as well as its first year simply being on the market. The whiskey I've got here is McLean's Nose. This is a blend from Adelphi. It's got Ardnamurchan in it. It's relatively affordable. It's craft presented. It's good stuff. Definitely one worth checking out. And I guess that would be it for today's video, guys. So thank you very much for watching. If you want to help out the channel, I do have the Patreon. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe. Always appreciated. And I want to hear from you. As I mentioned earlier, what are your thoughts on this video? How would you rank them? What would your top picks be? Let me know all that down below. Finally, down below in the comments, you can also tell me what you want to see me review down the line, and I'll keep it in mind. Bye, guys.